Spending an extra $300 a month to keep up appearances is costing you $540,000 by retirement. Let me show you exactly how. It's Saturday morning, 7:40 a.m. You're standing at your kitchen window with a coffee mug in your hand and you're watching your neighbor's new truck get backed into the driveway next door. Chrome wheels, dealer tags still hanging off the mirror. Your truck is parked 8 feet away, 8 years old. Runs fine. Started this morning without hesitation like it does every morning, but you're staring at it differently now. You're doing this weird mental math where suddenly the truck that worked perfectly yesterday feels old, outdated, not enough. And here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It's not really about the truck. It's not about your neighbor either. It's about a financial mechanism that's quietly draining the wealth of an entire generation, one comparison at a time. And by the time most people understand how it works, they've already spent decades inside it. So let's actually look at what's happening here, because the math is going to surprise you. You're making, let's say, $64,000 a year. After taxes, that's roughly $4,200 a month landing in your account. Rent or mortgage takes $1,500. Car payment, the one you already have, takes $310. Insurance, groceries, utilities, the usual stuff, another $1,400 combined. You're down to about $990 a month for everything else. Savings, fun, emergencies, whatever's left of your life. That $990 is tight, but it's workable. You've made it work for years. Then your neighbor gets a new truck, or your coworker mentions their kitchen renovation, or someone from college posts vacation photos from somewhere you've never been, and something shifts, not in your bank account, in your perception of your bank account. Suddenly, that $990 doesn't feel like enough anymore. Not because anything about your actual expenses changed, because your reference point changed. My name's Peter. And if you've ever wondered why your financial situation feels worse right after seeing someone else's better one, stick around, because what I'm about to show you is the actual mechanism behind that feeling. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It changes how you look at every purchase decision for the rest of your life. So here's what's actually going on in your brain in that moment of the kitchen window. There's a well-documented psychological pattern called social comparison. Basically, your brain doesn't evaluate your financial situation in isolation. It evaluates it relative to the people around you. Your $64,000 salary, your 8-year-old truck, your modest apartment, none of that gets assessed on its own merits. It gets assessed against your neighbor, your coworker, your college friends. And here's the part that matters. This comparison happens automatically, before you've consciously decided to compare anything. Your nervous system flags the disparity as a kind of social threat, not a survival threat, but a status threat. And it pushes you towards action before your rational brain even catches up. That's why you signed loan paperwork on a Tuesday afternoon for a truck you didn't need on a Saturday morning. You weren't thinking, you were reacting. Let's run the actual numbers on what this reaction costs, because this is where it stops being abstract and starts being a gut punch. Say you upgrade that truck. $52,000 sticker price, no trade-in, no down payment, financed over 72 months at 7.5% interest. Your payment comes out to $899 a month. Insurance goes up another $95 monthly because the truck is newer and worth more. That's $994 all in. Over 6 years, that's roughly $71,500 in total cash leaving your account, for a vehicle replacing one that started every morning without complaint. Now here's the number that should actually bother you. If you'd taken that same $899 monthly loan payment and put it into a basic index fund instead, at a 7% average annual return, over 6 years you'd have roughly $80,000. But people rarely stop the habit after 6 years. They roll into another payment and another. If you ran that same $899 monthly investment for 20 years instead, you'd have roughly $468,000. You didn't spend $71,500 on a truck. You spent $468,000 of your future for 6 years of not feeling outdated next to a chrome truck in a driveway you don't even own. That's the actual price of keeping up. Not the sticker price, the compounding price. If you want to understand how this cycle actually gets broken, not through willpower, not through budgeting harder, but through understanding the mechanism well enough to disarm it, hit subscribe, Because what we're about to cover next is the part almost nobody talks about, why this keeps happening even to people who know better. Here's the system flaw most people miss. You'd think the solution is just discipline. Just don't compare yourself to your neighbor. Just be content with what you have. That's not how it works. That's the trap, actually, because it puts the burden entirely on willpower in a moment specifically designed to bypass willpower. The comparison doesn't happen in a slow, deliberate part of your brain where discipline lives. It happens in a fast, reactive part of your brain that evolved to track social status, because for most of human history, social status determines survival. Falling behind the group wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. So when you see your neighbor's new truck, you're not weighing pros and cons, you're feeling something closer to alarm. A subtle, low-grade alarm that says, you're falling behind. And here's the psychological concept that explains why this keeps happening no matter how much you earn. Hedonic adaptation combined with what researchers call the reference point shift. You adapt to whatever you have within a few weeks. Your truck, your apartment, your salary, it all becomes your new normal baseline almost immediately. And once it's your baseline, you stop noticing it. You only notice deviations from it. Specifically, deviations where someone else has more. This is why people making $150,000 feel just as anxious about money as people making $50,000. The number isn't the variable. The comparison is the variable. And the comparison resets every time someone near you upgrades. You will never out-earn this mechanism. There is no salary high enough to make social comparison stop functioning, because it's not measuring your absolute wealth, it's measuring your relative position. And relative position, by definition, can always slip. Let's look at the long-term cost of staying inside this cycle, because this is where it gets genuinely alarming. If the average household overspends by even $300 a month chasing status-driven upgrades, nicer cars, bigger TVs, name-brand everything when generic would do, vacations sized to impress rather than to enjoy, here's what that costs over a working lifetime. $300 monthly, invested at a 7% annual return over 35 years, is $540,000. That's the same number from the start of this video. It's not a coincidence. It's the same mechanism, just running at a household average scale instead of a single truck. Most people don't invest that money, obviously. They spend it, which means the real comparison is between a future where you have $540,000 extra in retirement and a future where you have a garage full of depreciated upgrades and the same retirement anxiety as everyone else. You're lying in bed on a Thursday night and you're thinking about how you make decent money but somehow never feel ahead. That feeling isn't random. That feeling is the direct result of decades of small, invisible comparisons, quietly redirecting your money toward status instead of toward your own future. So here's how people who actually break this cycle think differently. And I want to be clear, this isn't about becoming immune to comparison. Nobody's immune to it. It's about recognizing it the moment it happens instead of acting on it unconsciously. When they see a neighbor's new car, they don't immediately think, should I upgrade? They think, interesting, I'm having a status reaction right now. They name the mechanism. Naming it pulls it out of the automatic reactive part of the brain and into the conscious evaluative part. They've developed a specific habit. Before any purchase over a certain threshold, they ask one question: would I still want this if absolutely nobody would ever see it? Not your partner, not your social media followers, not your neighbors. If the purchase vanished into complete invisibility the moment you owned it, would you still want it? If the honest answer is no, you're not actually buying the object, you're buying relief from a status threat. And that relief is temporary, while the payment plan is not. This doesn't mean never upgrading anything. It means separating genuine need or genuine desire from manufactured urgency. Sometimes the answer is yes, you'd still want the nicer thing even invisibly. That's a real preference.
buy it without guilt. But most of the time, when you're honest with yourself, the answer is no. And that no is worth a six-figure difference over your lifetime. Now, let me be real about something. This isn't a satisfying message. There's no viral moment in drive your 8-year-old truck and feel good about it. Nobody's impressed by your restraint. Nobody's going to comment on your paid-off vehicle the way they comment on a new one. It's boring. It's invisible. It's the opposite of status. But here's what it actually buys you: the ability to stop financing a life designed to impress people who, statistically, are barely paying attention to you in the first place. Most of your neighbors aren't thinking about your truck nearly as much as you're thinking about theirs. So here's the actual thing about keeping up. It's not a strategy, it's a reflex. And reflexes can be retrained, but only once you can see them happening. The math doesn't lie. A few $100s a month redirected away from status purchases and into something that compounds turns into a genuinely different life by the time you're in your 50s and 60s. Not a flashier one, a freer one. You can spend your 40s driving something impressive and feel behind anyway, because the comparison never stops generating new targets. Or you can spend your 40s watching a number grow that has nothing to do with anyone else's driveway. The truck in your neighbor's driveway will be outdated again in 5 years. Someone else will buy something newer and he'll feel the same flicker you felt this morning. The cycle doesn't end at any income level. It only ends when you stop running the race at all.